The mountain takes them. On February 1st, 1959, 9 young hikers set up their tent on the eastern slope of a cold, wind-swept mountain in the northern Ural region of the Soviet Union. By sunrise, they were dead. They did not die inside their tent. They did not die wearing their winter gear. They did not even die together. They fled into the darkness, barefoot, some in socks, some barely dressed, into temperatures that could freeze exposed skin in less than a minute. Their tent was later found cut open from the inside. More than 60 years later, what happened on that mountain still? It defies explanation. The lingering questions. If it was an avalanche, why were some injuries so severe without external trauma? Why did they move so far from the tent rather than attempt to dig out? Why was one hiker missing her tongue? Why did experienced mountaineers leave shelter without proper gear? After all these years, the mountain remains silent. Snow falls, wind howls. The slope looks peaceful again. But beneath that silence lies one of the most chilling mysteries in modern history. 9 young adventurers, 1 frozen night, and a story that refuses to fade. The darker theories. Over the years, alternative explanations emerged. Secret Soviet military tests, parachute mines exploding in the night, experimental weapons. The radiation traces fueled suspicion. Others proposed infrasound, low-frequency wind vibrations that could induce panic and irrational behavior. And then the more extreme theories: a Yeti attack, extraterrestrial involvement, Cold War encounters hidden from public record. None fully explain every detail. The avalanche theory. Decades later, many researchers supported the idea of a slab avalanche, a sudden collapse of compacted snow that may have partially crushed the tent. This could explain why they fled quickly. It could explain internal injuries. In 2019, Russian authorities reopened the case. In 2020, they concluded the most likely cause was a natural avalanche combined with hypothermia. Case closed again. But critics argue that there were no clear signs of a major avalanche. The slope angle was debated. The tent was not buried deeply. And avalanches do not explain everything. The ravine. Months later, when the snow began to melt, the final 4 bodies were discovered in a ravine deeper within the forest. This is where the mystery intensified. One hiker had a fractured skull. 2 others had severe chest trauma, injuries described as comparable to those from high-speed car crashes. Yet there were almost no external wounds, no defensive injuries, no visible signs of struggle. And one of them, Ludmila Dubinina, was found missing her tongue. Not surgically removed, not cleanly cut, simply gone. Some of the clothing tested positive for radiation. The official Soviet conclusion would later state that the hikers died due to a compelling natural force. No further clarification. The case was closed. The cedar tree. The first 2 bodies were found beneath a massive cedar tree at the forest's edge. They were wearing only underwear. Nearby lay the remains of a small fire. The branches of the cedar were broken as high as 5 meters above the ground, as if someone had climbed it. Perhaps they were trying to see back toward the tent, Perhaps they were watching something. 3 more bodies were discovered between the cedar tree and the campsite. Their position suggested they were attempting to return. They collapsed in the snow before reaching safety. The escape into darkness. When search teams finally discovered the campsite weeks later, the scene was deeply unsettling. The tent was still partially standing beneath layers of snow, but it had been slashed open from the inside. Inside were boots, heavy winter coats, food supplies, personal belongings, everything left behind. Footprints led downhill towards a forest nearly 1.5 kilometers away. The prints were orderly, not chaotic. Some were barefoot, some were in socks, some showed only a single shoe. They had walked, not sprinted, into temperatures below -30 degrees Celsius.
Whatever forced them out was urgent enough to make them cut their way through the tent, but not chaotic enough to create panic in their footprints. 3. The final camp. As the group approached the mountain, weather conditions worsened. Snowfall intensified. Wind cut across the open slopes. Instead of descending into the forest for natural shelter, they chose to set up camp high on the exposed mountainside. Why they made this decision remains debated. Some believe they feared losing altitude progress. Others think worsening visibility forced them to stop where they were. Their tent was carefully anchored into the snow. Diaries and photographs later showed that the group was calm, even cheerful. Nothing suggested fear. And yet,
during that night, something changed.
The expedition. In January 1959, 10 experienced hikers from the Ural Polytechnic Institute set out on a demanding winter expedition across the northern Urals in what is now Russia. The group was led by 23-year-old engineering student Igor Dyatlov. They were skilled, disciplined, physically prepared. This was a Category 3 expedition, the highest level of difficulty in the Soviet Union at the time. Their goal was to reach a remote peak known as Kholat Syakhl. In the language of the indigenous Mansi people, its name means Mountain of the Dead. Early in the journey, one member,
Yuri Yudin, fell ill and made the difficult decision to turn back. He would later become the only survivor. The remaining 9 continued forward into deep wilderness.